My sister pushed our grandmother down the stairs over her will, then blamed me for it the moment I heard the crash. I knew something was wrong. Not like someone dropped a glass in the kitchen wrong, but the kind of wrong where your stomach flips before your brain even catches up. The kind of wrong that echoes down an old stairwell with a sound you'll never unhear. It was a Thursday evening, early fall in Springfield, Missouri, and the house smelled like cinnamon and old wood, like it always did when the leaves started changing outside. I had been staying with my grandmother, Evelyn Parker, for the last few weeks while she recovered from a minor stroke. Nothing serious, just enough to scare the rest of us into making sure she wasn't alone. I took time off from school at the University of Missouri to help out. It was supposed to be temporary. It wasn't supposed to end the way it did. I rushed into the hallway, and there she was, lying twisted on the landing, her robe half open, her reading glasses cracked beside her, her silver hair tangled. She wasn't moving. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Grandma. I flew down the stairs two at a time, grabbing the banister, nearly slipping myself. Grandma, can you hear me? Her lips moved. Barely. I fumbled for my phone, called 911 with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. The dispatcher told me to stay calm. But how do you stay calm when the strongest woman you know, the one who practically raised you, can't even lift her head? They got her to the hospital in under 10 minutes. Broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, head trauma. The doctors weren't optimistic. She's stable, but unconscious, they said. It's too early to know the extent of the damage. And that's when Brianna showed up, my older sister, dressed like she had just stepped out of a beauty influencer livestream. Full makeup, high heels, no urgency in her voice. What happened? She asked, frowning like she was squinting into the sun. She fell, I said. At her age? Of course she did. You should have been more careful. Something about the way she said it. Like it was my fault. Like she was planting the seed. And I didn't realize it until much later, but that moment, that look, was the start of everything. We weren't close, Brianna and I. We were sisters, sure, but not friends. She was the golden child. The one who always got the last cookie and the first car. The one Grandma once joked had a mouth full of honey and a spine made of jello. Brianna worked in social media management, which meant she spent most of her time posting curated versions of her life and pretending they were real. But even I didn't think she was capable of what came next. 2 days after the fall, Grandma was still in the hospital, barely responsive. That's when a detective came to the house. Apparently, the hospital had reported the fall as suspicious. There was bruising on her upper arms, consistent with someone being pushed. Do you know how she ended up at the bottom of the stairs? He asked. I blinked. She must have fallen. I wasn't in the room when it happened. Anyone else here that night? I paused. Brianna had been there. I hadn't mentioned it. But now, I called her. Did you talk to anyone about Grandma? She laughed like I was being dramatic. Relax. I told them you were home. You were supposed to be watching her. My chest tightened. Brianna, what the hell are you saying? Madison, she said sweetly. If they ask, just say you went to the bathroom or something. It'll blow over. No one's accusing anyone. But they were. Because 3 days later, a protective services agent knocked on my door with a clipboard and a notepad and a whole lot of questions. Do you understand why you're being interviewed today? I sat there stunned. I didn't do anything. I love my grandmother. She wrote something down. Is there anyone who might say otherwise? And in that second, I realized. Brianna had flipped the story, and she was blaming me. The house suddenly didn't feel like a home anymore. Every corner felt like it was watching me. Every step on the stairs made me nauseous. I started sleeping on the couch with one eye open. The family group chat went silent, except for Brianna's occasional passive-aggressive messages like, "Hope Grandma gets better soon." We all make mistakes, Maddie. She knew exactly what she was doing. A week later, I got the call that changed everything. It was from Rachel and Gwen, an old friend from high school who had gone into law. I don't mean to alarm you, she said, but I was volunteering at legal aid today, and your name came up. I sat up straight. What? Your sister requested assistance filing a temporary protective order. Against you. What? She's claiming you're unfit to be near your grandmother. That you're volatile. She's lying. I know. My heart pounded. But there's something else, she added. What? She also said. Evelyn changed her will and left everything to you. The room went quiet. My ears buzzed. I couldn't believe it. Brianna wasn't just trying to get rid of me. She was trying to erase me. Because if I was out of the picture, she got everything. The morning after Rachel told me about the restraining order, I sat in my grandmother's kitchen with my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone cold. Every corner of the house felt different now. like it had been rewritten in Brianna's image, glossy, cold, and transactional. I looked around, trying to think, to breathe, to figure out what the hell to do next. Because if she was telling the truth, if Grandma really had updated her will and left everything to me, then that meant one thing. Brianna had a motive. And suddenly, the bruises, the silence, the blame, it all started to line up like pieces of a puzzle I never wanted to finish. Rachel called again later that day. I did some digging, she said. Turns out Evelyn's attorney passed away last year. Seriously. Yeah. And without an active lawyer of record, any recent legal changes to the will might not be filed yet. What does that mean? It means if she wrote a new one and kept it here, somewhere in the house, it could be the only copy that proves what your grandmother really wanted. So that night, I started searching. I waited until Lily was asleep upstairs and began opening every drawer, every file cabinet, every dusty old book with hollowed pages. Nothing in the office. Nothing in her bedroom. Nothing in the sewing room. But then, I remembered something. About a month before her stroke, Grandma had told me about a legacy box. Something she said was just for emergencies. At the time, I thought she meant old insurance policies or maybe some family heirloom she didn't want me to forget. But now, it could be the key to everything. I checked the guest room closet, the one she hadn't used in years, and there it was. An old cedar box tucked behind a pile of unused blankets, sealed with a combination lock. The same kind she used for the medicine cabinet when we were kids. Only one code came to mind. Her birthday. 0327. The lock clicked open. Inside were birth certificates, old newspaper clippings, a faded black and white wedding photo, and at the very bottom, a manila envelope labeled in her neat, looping handwriting. Revised will, October 2022. My throat caught. I opened it with shaking hands. The first thing I saw was her signature, Evelyn Parker. Then mine, as executor. The document was recent, clear, unmistakable. She had left the house, her savings account, her personal belongings, and legal guardianship of her affairs all to me. No mention of Brianna. Anywhere. I sat on the floor, stunned. It wasn't about the money. It was about trust. She had trusted me. Not Brianna. Not the person who bailed on every family event, every birthday, every health scare until it was time to ask about inheritances and home values. She chose me. And now Brianna was trying to erase that decision by getting me thrown out. I scanned every page, photographed each one, uploaded it to cloud storage, sent a copy to Rachel, and I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called Brianna. She didn't pick up. So I sent a message. I know about the will. You might want to cancel that court order before this gets messy. She replied 10 minutes later. You went through her things? You're disgusting. I didn't answer. I didn't have to. Because Rachel called an hour later. You were right. It's legally valid. Dated. Signed. Witnessed. We're filing an injunction right now to block her from making any property claims. That should have been the end of it. But with Brianna, it's never that simple. Because that same afternoon, I came back from the grocery store and noticed something strange. The front door was unlocked. I always locked it. Always. I stepped inside, and there she was, standing in the middle of Grandma's living room, flipping through photo albums like she had just come home from vacation. Brianna? She looked up, calm as you like. Oh, hey. I still had a key. Figured I'd grab a few things. You're not supposed to be here. She held up a picture of us as kids in the backyard, both holding melted popsicles. Remember this? Get out. She rolled her eyes and stood up slowly. You know, I gave you a chance to walk away quietly. I laughed. Are you seriously threatening me? After everything. She took a step closer. You think you've won. But trust me, you don't know the whole story. Then she leaned in and whispered something I'll never forget. Grandma was going to change her mind. You just got lucky with the timing. I froze. What are you talking about? She smiled like it was a game. Maybe she tripped. Maybe she didn't. Who knows? Accidents happen. Then she walked past me and out the door. Like she hadn't just said the most chilling thing in the world. I locked the door behind her and stood there in silence for what felt like hours. Because suddenly, this wasn't just a petty inheritance fight. It was something darker. She had motive. She had access. And maybe she had intended for Grandma not to wake up. For 2 days, I couldn't stop replaying Brianna's words in my head. Maybe she tripped. Maybe she didn't. Who knows? Accidents happen. I tried to tell myself it was just a threat. A low-blow bluff meant to scare me off. She'd always known how to push buttons, ever since we were kids. But this wasn't a game anymore. She wasn't just picking on me to feel powerful. She was circling like a shark. And I knew. If I didn't stop her, she'd bury the truth for good. I needed backup. So I called Rachel, my legal aid friend who'd been helping behind the scenes. I need to confront her, I told her. But not alone. Rachel didn't hesitate. We'll make it formal. I'll set up a recorded mediation at Tucker and Blake downtown. You bring the will. Let her talk. I'll handle the fallout. I almost cried from relief. Because for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was fighting alone. We scheduled it for Friday afternoon. A neutral room. 2 chairs. 1 glass conference table. A camera in the corner blinking red. Rachel sat at the head of the table, flipping through documents like she was bored. I sat quietly, fingers laced in my lap. And then Brianna walked in. Late. Of course. Sunglasses, designer coat, a coffee in hand like she was arriving for brunch. She barely glanced at me. Wow, she said. This feels dramatic. Rachel looked up. Take a seat. It started civil. Rachel presented the revised will, the documents, the timeline of Grandma's health and care. Brianna barely blinked. Until Rachel asked the question. Do you deny saying to Madison, quote, maybe she tripped. Maybe she didn't. Brianna's smile faltered. She glanced at me. Then back at Rachel. I don't remember saying that. Rachel raised an eyebrow. So you're not denying it? I'm saying it was taken out of context. Okay. And what context would that be, exactly? Brianna's eyes flickered. And that's when she made the mistake. She leaned back and said, with an exasperated sigh, fine. I said it. But it was a joke. I didn't mean she actually got pushed. God, you people take everything so literally. The room went still. Rachel tapped her pen. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Brianna froze. What? You just confirmed your knowledge of the fall being suspicious. While under active investigation. I said it was a joke. But you admitted you said it. And the recording proves you were aware of potential foul play before the hospital flagged it. Her face turned red. You're twisting this. Rachel smiled thinly. I'm documenting this. But that wasn't the moment everything broke. That happened a few minutes later, in the lobby. As we were leaving, Danielle, our cousin, walked in. She worked a few floors up in the same building and had come down for coffee. Hey, what are you guys doing here? She asked, clearly surprised to see both of us. Before I could answer, Brianna rolled her eyes and muttered, just dealing with little Miss Favorite granddaughter again. Danielle laughed awkwardly. You two fighting again? Brianna didn't stop. She leaned closer and said, almost under her breath, if Grandma had just signed the damn will the way she was supposed to before she, fell, none of this would have happened. Danielle's face changed. Slowly, like she wasn't sure what she'd just heard. And I watched it all happen. Watched Brianna realize, half a second too late, that she had said too much to the wrong person. She tried to laugh it off. I'm just kidding, obviously. But Danielle didn't laugh. She looked at me, then back at Brianna. And I knew she heard it too. Danielle called me that night. I didn't want to get in the middle, she said. You're not, I told her. You were already in it. The moment Grandma went down those stairs. She was quiet. Then, you think she did it, don't you? I don't think. I know. And Danielle whispered the words that would flip everything. I was with her the day before. She was furious. Said she talked to Grandma and got blindsided, that you were being written into the will and she wasn't. She said, if you weren't there, it wouldn't matter. I sat down slowly. You'd be willing to say that? Another pause. Then, I'll do what Grandma would have wanted. The next morning, Rachel filed a petition to formally submit the will and a statement of suspicion regarding elder abuse with the county, with Danielle's signed affidavit. It wasn't an arrest. Yet. But it was a massive legal step. It blocked Brianna from claiming any access to Grandma's accounts or property, effective immediately. And more importantly, it triggered an investigation. Brianna found out that afternoon. She texted me at 3:12 p.m., you really want to tear this family apart over a house? You're disgusting. I didn't answer. Because it was never about the house. It was about what she did to get it. The next morning, I got a call from the hospital. Grandma had woken up. When I got the call from the hospital, I was in the middle of pouring coffee. My hand froze mid-pour. The nurse's voice on the other end was calm but urgent. She's awake. And she's asking for you. I left the mug half full and grabbed my keys without thinking. The drive to Clearview Recovery Center took exactly 17 minutes, but it felt like 17 hours. My heart pounded the entire time. Not from fear, but from something deeper, like standing on the edge of a cliff you were thrown from and suddenly offered a second chance to climb back up. I found her in a quiet corner room on the 3rd floor, sunlight pouring through the window and casting soft light across her face. Evelyn Parker, my grandmother, looked so fragile beneath the hospital sheets, pale, tired, but awake. She smiled the second she saw me. Madison, that alone made my knees buckle. I rushed to her side, trying not to cry. She squeezed my hand with more strength than I expected. Did they get her? She asked, her voice raspy. I blinked. You remember? She nodded slowly. I remember everything. I pulled the chair closer, sat beside her. Take your time, I whispered. But she didn't need much time. Her voice was quiet, but every word landed like thunder. She came by that night. Said she just wanted to talk. I was in the middle of my tea. She was angry. Kept asking if I was serious about the will. Said it was unfair. I told her it was my decision. My home. My money. My life. She got that look, like your grandfather used to get when someone told him no. I started walking back toward the stairs. She followed me. I don't remember falling, but I remember the push. I closed my eyes, swallowed hard. And you're sure? I asked. She squeezed my hand again. I would bet my soul on it. That was all I needed. I stepped out of the room and called Rachel. She remembers, I told her. She's clear. Direct. No confusion. Rachel didn't miss a beat. I'll contact the detectives. This is the break we needed. The next few days moved fast. Evelyn gave a formal recorded statement to law enforcement. The bruises on her arms, the positioning of the fall, the changes in her will, all of it now pointed to one thing: intent. And Brianna? Well, she had no idea what was coming. I was there when the officers knocked on her door. She opened it wearing gym clothes and fake surprise. They read her rights. Her eyes darted to me as they cuffed her on the porch. You did this, she hissed. I didn't flinch. You did this to yourself. The media got wind of it. Small-town scandal. Granddaughter accused in attempted murder over inheritance. It was everywhere for a week. Whispers in the grocery store. Questions from coworkers. Even Lily's school sent home a family wellness check letter. But I didn't hide. Because I had nothing to be ashamed of. Evelyn's health stabilized faster than expected. She transferred to a rehab facility closer to home and insisted I bring Lily to visit once a week. Watching her read stories to my daughter in that soft voice, the same one she used on us growing up, reminded me why I'd fought so hard. Not for the house. Not for the money. For her. For the woman who never gave up on me. And finally, I got to be the one who didn't give up on her. Brianna's lawyer tried every angle. Temporary psychosis. Grief. Misunderstood intentions. But the evidence was too strong. The bruises. The motive. The will. The DA offered a deal: probation, community service, and court-mandated therapy if she pled guilty to elder abuse and endangerment. She took it. Because even she knew, going to trial would destroy her. I didn't go to her sentencing. But I did receive a letter. Written in her familiar looping script. Scented with the same perfume she always wore. You were always the favorite. I get it now. You win. That's all it said. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I regret it. Just resentment. Still trying to twist it into a game. I didn't respond. Because I was finally done playing. Grandma came home a few weeks later. She moved a little slower. Needed help with stairs. But she was sharper than ever. We sat on the porch one night, sipping iced tea, watching the sky turn gold. You saved me, she said. I shook my head. You saved yourself. I just got loud enough for people to hear it. They say when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I had seen who Brianna was for years. Manipulative. Self-serving. Cruel, when it suited her. But after everything, after the arrest, the statement from Grandma, the charges, part of me thought she'd finally back off. That maybe, just maybe, she'd take the slap on the wrist the court gave her and vanish into her perfectly filtered little online world. But I should have known. Brianna wasn't wired for losing. It was about 3 weeks after Evelyn came home from the hospital. We'd just finished dinner, Lily, Grandma, and I all curled up on the couch, watching some animated movie none of us were really following. The house felt full again. Warm. Alive. Later, I tucked Lily into bed and kissed her forehead like always. Then helped Grandma up the stairs, one slow step at a time. She paused at the top and gave me a look. You don't have to keep guarding me, Maddie. I'm not guarding, I said. I'm loving. She smiled, but I saw the guilt in her eyes. She still felt responsible for the chaos Brianna caused. But it wasn't hers to carry. I checked all the doors that night. Double-locked everything. Old habits, I guess. Since the fallout, I'd grown used to being cautious. Still, nothing prepared me for what happened next. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I woke up. Not from a sound, but a feeling. That heavy, crawling tension in your chest when something isn't right. I sat up and listened. Nothing. Then, barely audible, the click of the back door. Every hair on my arm stood up. I slipped out of bed, heart pounding, and tiptoed down the hallway. The house was pitch dark except for the hallway nightlight near the kitchen. And there, barely visible in the shadow by the mudroom, I saw a shape. Someone was inside. Someone was in our house. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I backed into the hall and grabbed my phone from the charger. Dialed 911 with one hand, grabbed the small but I kept tucked by the coat rack with the other. 911. What's your emergency? There's someone in my house, I whispered. Back in trance. I'm upstairs. My daughter and grandmother are here. We're dispatching officers right now. Stay on the line. I crept forward just enough to peek into the mudroom. And then the figure stepped into view. It was Brianna, wearing all black, hair tied back, gloves on. She didn't even look surprised to see me. In fact, she smiled. What are you doing here? I asked, voice shaking. She looked around the room, like she was shopping. Thought I'd stop by. Pick up a few things Grandma promised me. You're trespassing. The police are on their way. Her expression flickered, just briefly. You think I care? You think any of this matters? You broke into a house with a court order against you, with a minor child inside. You're done. She stepped closer. Don't act so high and mighty, Maddie. You think you're better than me just because Grandma picked you? You think you deserve all this? I tightened my grip on the bat. I didn't ask to be picked. I showed up. I loved her. I stayed. That's what made the difference. Her face twisted. You always play the victim. No, I said. That's your favorite role. And this time, no one's buying it. The front porch lit up in red and blue. Police lights spilled through the windows like fire. Brianna froze. I took one step back and called out. She's in here. Officers moved in fast. They arrested her on sight again. This time for violating a protection order, unlawful entry, and attempted theft. She screamed the whole way out. I'm her family. I have a right. This is MY house too. But it wasn't. And everyone finally saw that now. Grandma didn't come downstairs during the commotion. She didn't have to. But the next morning, she sat across from me at the kitchen table with a cup of tea in hand. She'll never stop, will she? She has to, I said. Because now it's not just our word. It's the law. The system's involved. She's made her choices. Grandma sighed. I always thought I raised her better than this. You did, I said. But you can't parent someone who refuses to grow. Brianna was officially charged the following week. This time, the judge didn't offer a sweet deal. Her previous offenses, coupled with the break-in, triggered a more serious sentence, house arrest, mandatory counseling, and a restraining order extended for 5 years. It wasn't jail, but it was a very public humiliation. She lost brand deals, followers, friends. Danielle said she started spiraling, posting cryptic messages, blaming everyone but herself. But I didn't look. I didn't check her socials. I didn't read her rants. Because I was finally free. One night, Grandma handed me a folded note. I wrote this before everything happened, she said. I thought I'd be gone. But now I want you to have it anyway. It read, Maddie, thank you for staying when it would have been easier to run. I may have built this house, but you made it a home. And that's worth more than anything I could have left you on paper. I cried for the first time in weeks. And I let myself feel it all, the pain, the anger, the relief. Because it was finally over. Or at least, it felt that way. It's funny how life goes quiet after the chaos. After courtrooms, break-ins, betrayal, it's almost eerie to settle back into normalcy. But somehow we did. 3 years passed. Grandma's health had stabilized. Lily grew into a curious, sharp, and slightly sassy little girl with my dry humor and her great-grandmother's stare that could silence a room. And me? I bought out the house from the trust and made it ours for real. No legal strings. No shadow from the past. Just peace. Until last fall. Lily had just started 5th grade. She loved art class, rollerblading, and had recently developed a bit of a true crime obsession, not unlike her mother. We were at the fall festival at her school, wandering around between hay bales and booths selling overpriced cider, when I saw her. Brianna. Across the field. Dressed in a long cream coat, sunglasses perched on her head, walking like she owned the place. And my blood went ice cold. She spotted us before I could turn around. Walked right up like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't tried to have me thrown out of our home. Like she hadn't broken and wearing gloves in the middle of the night. Like she hadn't almost gotten Lily taken away from me. Madison, she said with that same fake brightness I'd seen 100 times before. Brianna, I've been meaning to reach out. I've changed. I didn't answer. Then she looked past me to Lily. Hi there, sweetheart. You've gotten so big. Lily glanced at me first, then back at her. I'm 10, she said flatly. Brianna crouched a little, forced a smile. I'm your aunt. I used to visit when you were little. You mean before you tried to steal Grandma's house and get my mom arrested? I swear, I've never been prouder in my life. Brianna blinked like she'd been slapped. What? Lily folded her arms. I know what you did. Mom never lies to me. Neither does Grandma. You broke in. You got in trouble. You don't get to act nice now. Brianna stood up slowly, clearly flustered. Kids don't understand grown-up things. Lily just raised an eyebrow and said, no. Grown-ups who act like kids do stuff like what you did. I placed a hand gently on Lily's shoulder and said nothing. Because there was nothing else to say. Brianna looked at me, one last time, like she was trying to find some crack in the armor. Some sign that I missed her. I didn't. She turned and walked off, melting back into the crowd. And I exhaled like I just closed the last chapter of a book I never wanted to read in the first place. Later that night, Lily and I sat on the porch, sipping cocoa and watching the breeze move through the trees. Did I say too much? She asked. I looked at her and smiled. No, baby. You said just enough. A few months later, we got a card in the mail. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note in overly neat cursive. I hope one day Lily can forgive me. I've lost everything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. There was no signature. Just a short line at the bottom. P.S. You were always the strong one. I tucked it into a drawer. Didn't tell Lily. Because forgiveness? It's not something you ask for. It's something you earn. Grandma passed peacefully the following spring. In her sleep, wrapped in her favorite quilt, in the same house she had built with her own hands. She left everything officially to me and Lily. But more importantly, she left the stories. Legacy, love, and strength. We held a small ceremony in the backyard. Just close friends and a few family members who never played sides. Danielle gave a toast. She always said she didn't need a big crowd. Just people who showed up when it mattered. After everyone left, Lily and I stood by the tree Grandma planted when I was born. She looked up at me and said, Mom, do you think Aunt Brianna will ever really be sorry? I thought about it. I don't know, but I do know we don't have to carry that anymore. She nodded, then went back to picking wildflowers. Like the world hadn't just closed a chapter. Because for her, it hadn't. It was only just beginning. So now I want to ask you, the ones who stuck through this whole story, would you have forgiven her? Would you have given Brianna a second chance after everything she did? Or would you have walked away like we did? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes, family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up when you're falling. And sometimes, it's the 10-year-old girl with cocoa on her chin who says what we're all too polite to say out loud.